Hello folks, welcome to another video by 1960s and 70s Chronicles of a Golden Year. This one is going to be what we refer to on the Chronicles Facebook page as a brain cruncher question. Anyone familiar with the Facebook page, who's part of the Chronicles community as we call it, will know that this means being put on the spot. Being asked to, brain crunch, tax your brain and come up with a list of what is usually 10 items. This one will be 10. That could be a list any number long because there is so much to choose from, so much quality. But that's the fun. It is also the annoyance, the irritation. I get that. And as I too am a participant in these things, I'm very fair in that way, very fair generally, I think. I know what you're going through because I have to produce these lists as well. This particular list, this brain cruncher, annoying, irritating, but fun. That's the fun. Putting yourself on the spot, putting yourself under pressure, coming up with a definite list, which you will probably change 10 minutes after making it, or certainly at the next time you consider it, if not change completely, change at least in part. Same goes for me. But to be put on the spot and come up with 10 is fun. But here's my 10. 1960 to 1969. I'm going to ask for one single, just one single, that best defines each year, 60 to 69, which of course will be 10 in all. And it's going to annoy you. It annoyed me. I mean, I had to put myself through what you're going to put yourself through as well, those who participate. I hope you do. Here's mine. 1960. The Twist, Chubby Checker. Why? The Twist was one of the memorable phenomenon from this era. Actually, the Twist goes back, I think, to the late 50s, but it certainly carried on into the early 60s. And I remember the Twist, even as a small kid. I remember being kind of, they tried to make me do the Twist at a kid's party, a birthday party, and I just refused, of course. I don't dance. I didn't dance then, I don't dance now, I never will. So I remember the Twist. It was actually Let's Twist Again, so that was a year or two later. But the Twist was a phenomenon that lasted, a dance craze that lasted for a few years. And I think it's best defined by the song The Twist by Chubby Checker, 1960. 1961, Cupid, Sam Cooke. Why? Just because it's a beautiful song. Covered many, many times, of course. I think everyone knows this song, and who doesn't like this song, really? It's a beautiful song by a wonderful singer, songwriter who is very influential for other singer-songwriters from then till now. Oh, 1961, Cupid, Sam Cooke. 1962, well, if we're talking about phenomena, this is the single that really launched the phenomenon that has defined modern music ever since. This is Love Me Do by the Beatles. In the UK, it was the Beatles' first really big chart single. And we know what happened next. So the Beatles' Love Me Do was the start of something that changed musical culture forever. So it's got to be 1962, Love Me Do, the Beatles. 1963, this is a song by one of the big challenges at the time to the Beatles. There were various Merseybeat bands that rivaled the Beatles for success, and of course the Rolling Stones. But very briefly, this was a sound by a band that was considered to be one of the big challenges to the Beatles phenomenon that was taking off in 1963. This is the Dave Clark Five with Glad All Over. Now, this is probably the first song that I was old enough at the time to really remember and be into. A big drumming sound, Dave Clark Five sitting at the back, thumping away in the drums. And I remember my older brother and me instantly became Dave Clark Five fans, and we were just drumming on any upturned buckets, tears, everything, just drumming with anything, rulers, boom, boom, all of them. And we kind of became rivals to Dave Clark fan rivals to our two older sisters, who were, of course, Beatles fans. So Glad All Over, the Dave Clark Five, is a big memory for me, and that's my choice for the single of 63. 64 is, I think, the song that really grabs the British invasion which had happened in 1964. This was the sudden massive popularity of British bands and artists in North America and subsequently around the world. It's a change of the center of modern musical culture from the USA to the UK. And British bands became it. But ironically, there were many aspects to it, of course, several aspects anyway. Core was the exporting of blues music by young white British guys back to its native America. Now, a few twists and turns here. White American youth, in fact, really white America generally, never got exposed to blues music. It was considered the music of the African American society. And in fact, I learned recently that African American youth in the 1960s, early 1960s, even they were not into the blues. It was the music of their parents. It was older generation music. African American youth in the 1960s, late 50s were kind of into a bit of rock and roll, and R&B, Motown was becoming a thing, but they weren't into the blues. It was older generation African American music that suddenly somehow reached the ears of white British youth. They formed bands, they played it, they went over to America, and America went, wow, where did this come from? Well, your backyard, actually. But you couldn't get to hear it, you just didn't get to hear it because it was just not something that you were exposed to. But now here you were being exposed to it, and you suddenly realize, wow, American culture, especially youth culture, black and white, African American and white American. Suddenly going, wow, this is amazing music. And that was the British invasion. It was the exporting of American music, American older generation, African American music back to its homeland in the form of white British guys. Anyway, that was a quick overview of the British invasion. And so what's the song? What's the song that I think just grabs that whole phenomenon, that whole British guys playing blues? A lot of choices, but it's got to be, for me, it's got to be The Animals with House of the Rising Sun. Traditional song, worldwide hit, was at number one everywhere, I think it was. And that's my choice for 1964, the single in 1964, The Animals, House of the Rising Sun. 1965, as long as we're talking about template setting sounds that really capture a whole genre of music, really. 65, there can only be one choice for me. It's, for me anyway, the song that sets the template for protest music, protest songs that became such a big part of the youth social and cultural revolution of the 60s going into the 70s. A lot of protest songs at that time. There had been before with Dylan and so forth, but this is the song that I think set the template for protest going forward. I think you know what it is, 1965. It's got to be The Eve of Destruction, Barry Maguire. Um, protest everything in their society. There's anti-war, there's ecology, there's just how we treat each other as human beings. And I think it is the benchmark for protest songs going forward. So 1965, The Eve of Destruction, Barry Maguire. 1966, we're getting a bit lightweight here, but there was another phenomenon that took off at this time. It was huge. And this I do remember because, and I was into via the TV show and from the TV show, the music as well. But I was a kid at the time. I wasn't really into music, but I was into this phenomenon, and you know what I'm talking about. It's the Monkees um, TV show, the whole Monkees package, the whole Monkees brand, if you like. And with that, you just get into the music as part of that. And this is I'm a Believer, one of the Monkees' huge hits. So I'm taking that as the song of 1966. 67, wow. The year that the youth social and cultural revolution really congealed into a full formed, again, I'm going to use the word phenomenon, the summer of love and so on. What a year for music. We have it in the greatest ever year for music section of the Chronicles Facebook page. Thank you for the person who contributed that. How do you choose a song? How do you choose one song, one single to represent that year? Wow. This year, again, redefine music. The Beatles with Sgt. Pepper. The Moody Blues is what is probably the first prog rock concept album. Days of Future Past. What had you? But I did. I did. My choice, my brain cruncher choice for 67 is a whiter shade of pale Procol Harum. That was probably the toughest of all the years, actually. But I'm going for that. Procol Harum fan probably swayed it. 68. The Beach Boys do it again. 67, music had to move forward again because of the Beatles, because of Sgt. Pepper. The Beach Boys got a kind of way. They say, I'm told, the story goes that the Beach Boys, Brian Wilson, said, we got to raise the bar. We got to compete with this redefining of music, modern music, and they did. The Pet Sounds albums came out around that time, but the single "Do It Again" was a change of direction, bit of a change of a sound for the Beach Boys, changed lyrically as well. It's a pop song. The lyrics are quite simple, but they have something to say. And I think it's a great step forward for the Beach Boys, and it's for me. It's the single of 1968. The single of 1969 to round off the decade. Um, another protest song, and I can see anyway, I can make a connection between The Eve of Destruction in 65 and this song. You can see, I can kind of make a connection between them, an influence and inspiration, because it is in the year 2525, Zager and Evans. And again, we're talking about a song that raises protest issues, the environment, war, how we interact as human beings, where we're going as a species, and where we're taking the planet with us. And it's a warning in there. Again, I emphasize the template set by the Eve of Destruction in 1965. And now this is in the year 2525. If that was the Eve of Destruction, in the year 2525 projects to a future of actual destruction. And I kind of make that connection between the two. Well, the Eve of Destruction and probably every protest song since then. So those are my 10. 1960 to 1969. The Twist Chubby Checker, Cupid, Sam Cooke. Love Me Do the Beatles, Glad All Over, the Dave Clark 5, House of the Rising Sun, The Animals. Eve of Destruction, Barry Maguire. I'm a Believer, the Monkees, A Whiter Shade of Pale, Procol Harum. Do It Again, the Beach Boys, and finally in the year 2525, Zager and Evans. Please participate, folks. This is fun. The brain crunchers, you know how they go. You'll change your mind tomorrow, probably, but at least partly. But they're good fun. I hope you've liked mine. Perhaps you agree with at least some of them. In the meantime, last thing to do is to say, please, it's the pointy downy thing again. Please subscribe. It's free to do, by the way, no charge for that. It's like linking the Facebook page. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like the video, make comments on the video and on the Facebook posting. And that said, I will say take care, look after yourselves, and I will see you next time.